Good morning and welcome to Talking to Artists this week. So actually I'm just going to start my timer. Hang on. I said I was going to do that ahead of time and I forgot all the time. Anyway, just wanted to say thank you so much for joining me. I think this is our seventh session and I've got another 6 already lined up, so that will be really good. I think I'm going to continue to do these right through my vacation from the cottage, because that will be, of course, a lovely place to be. I'm right now in my backyard, hoping that it doesn't rain, but it feels like it's going to be okay, and it's the heat seems to have broken a bit. Hey, Jose. Hey, good to see you. Hi, Suzanne. Thank you so much for joining. So just a couple of things about me. I know I've had a lot of questions about me and my health and all that kind of shit, and I just want to say thank you so much. It was really wonderful how many people really gave me sort of encouraging thoughts, and everything's totally cool with me, and my dad is home now from hospital, and so that's all good, and my stolen car is the least of the issues, but I think we'll deal with that as it comes through. So a couple of things. I know some of the galleries are opening, and I'm hoping to have a conversation with some gallery owners just to sort of help artists understand what the relationship is and how to get into galleries, and also for collectors to start to helpfully understand how they can actually still buy art and still feel comfortable about the decisions in a kind of environment that is just so different than what we've had before. And galleries are also really pivoting like artists have been. A quick thing is I actually have a show on right now with the Artist Network Gallery. Oh, hi, Jennylynd. I'm going to join you in 1 second. Very excited to talk to Jennylynd. I've been looking forward to talking to her for a long time. But just also wanted to encourage you to go and check out the lesliegrovegallery.ca. It's the latest show by the Artist Network. And because of the fact the gallery is open, but there's obviously a limited number of people that can kind of go in, it's actually, we've got a virtual tour where you can go in, you can it's really cool. You can go and look at the paintings, you can move yourself around the gallery and check the pieces out. And we have a virtual opening on June 23rd. So hopefully you guys can join us, and that will be really fun. So I'm going to bring on Jennylynd now. And hopefully our Wi-Fi will work. We've had some issues the last couple of weeks, but I think we've learned now, if there's a problem, we're going to turn the Wi-Fi off. So.
Okay, now I'm
hey,
here. Hello.
I can hear you, but I can't see you.
Okay, let's see.
So you might have to turn your Wi-Fi off. I know it's kind of always a bit of with the amount that the...
maybe are you seeing now?
I can't see you. I can just see a circle.
Oh.
So
let me see. Maybe the camera is off.
No, it looks like it's circling, like it's trying to find... one day we'll get this. One day this will be flawless, right?
Sorry about that. Let's see what...
No problem. Hey, Carolyn. I'll just wave to people as they're joining our call.
Yes.
JRTSE. Hello. I don't know who that is, but hello and welcome and thanks for joining us. So while Jennylynd is trying to figure out her Wi-Fi issues, which honestly, Jennylynd, I think you might have to go on data instead of Wi-Fi.
Yeah. It's just, I don't know. All right, let me, I'll switch and see if that helps. Let me switch.
Okay. Oh, Jennifer C. Yes, hi. Welcome. Good to see you. I think we just joined in LinkedIn too. Anyway, so Jennylynd, she's actually a pretty cool person. One of these people who's kind of a serial entrepreneur, has got her hands in a lot of different things, which is really cool. And so I always think it's really great when you've got an artist who kind of appreciates the business part of art, is still kind of blending their business day with their art day, and she's also a writer. So I'm really looking forward to kind of hearing all about what she's going to be doing. I'm wondering if I should... Hey. Okay, you know what? All right. All right, we're going to try this again. I apologize, and thank you so much for everybody's patience as we work through all these little technology challenges. Okay. There you are. I can see you now. That's great. Oh, I'm so glad you joined us.
I didn't click it properly. So
I think we're all learning, and I think one day when it'll be totally smooth, it'll be such a surprise, and I'm sure we'll look back on these original ones. I'm listening to this podcast, Art Juice, and it's funny because I started at their 70th episode, and it was so smooth and so perfect, and and then I went back and listened to the first ones, and it was hilarious because you could hear like the dog snoring in the background, and it's like, so I think we'll just continue to get better. So glad you could join me, and
thank you for inviting me.
Yeah. Well, I've been looking forward to talking to you for a while, actually, because I've been following you on Instagram and all the, really cool things you're working on. And congratulations on joining the board of the Artists Network. I'm super excited about that. So I think that will be really fun. We'll be able to do some cool stuff there. So just a quick introduction is, I love the fact that you kind of call yourself a Renaissance woman, and I think that's such an apt term, given the fact that your fingers are in so many different things. And I think that you, like me, are a little bit of a serial entrepreneur. Yeah.
Well, people have called me that, so I assume the title.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, I think that's good. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and maybe what you're working on right now?
Right. I'll give you my background. I was born in Trinidad and Tobago. I grew up in a musical family. My mom was a high school music teacher, and she gave piano lessons at home to all the kids in the neighborhood. And my dad was the principal of a secondary school, so teachers all around. So we were steered into, an academic path, although I excelled in music and took part in national music festivals in Trinidad all my life, my young life. Wow. And so when it came time to go to university, everybody assumed I was going to study music. And I said, nope, I'm doing science. So they were baffled because I'd excelled in music. But I didn't want to teach. I didn't want to be like my mom. So I went in a different direction. I did biochemistry pre-med at McGill. Then realized after that I didn't want to do medicine. So I kind of stumbled into food science and food technology. I did a master's, and then I did a Ph.D. in food science and molecular genetics at McGill again. Wow. And so I've worked in the food industry for 25 years. I've stopped counting now. But in different capacities: quality assurance, research and development, new product development, and academia. I taught for a while at the college level. And I also ran my own food business. And I worked in several countries, in Trinidad in the food processing industry. And then in the United States, I worked in Florida in research at a university in Tallahassee, Florida. Then I worked in the fruit and vegetable industry in California for 6 years. First at a large vegetable grower, Boscovich Farms. And then at the dual corporate office in Westlake, California, where I was responsible for quality assurance and food safety for all the bananas and pineapples coming into North America. So it meant traveling to Central and South America to visit the growers and audit their farms and pack houses. So it was quite involved. Tons of travel to many, many countries. And it was one of the best jobs I ever had because it's a dual corporate office, just a multicultural environment. And they were quite supportive in training, senior management, and even brought a tutor to teach me Spanish because I had to go to Latin America all the time.
Oh, cool. And, so do you speak French as well as Spanish then?
Yes, I do. I did French in Trinidad in high school. And because I went to McGill, I had the opportunity to practice my French. And I did French as electives right through school so that I could keep up with it. So I was quite good when I left. Now I left Quebec in 96. So I don't know if I'm quite good anymore, but I was at the time. And so even though I had a fabulous job in California, a great corporate job, I wanted to get European work experience. And I had asked Dole Europe, because they had branches all over the world. I asked them if I could join their quality assurance group, because I had been to one of their meetings in Prague, Czech Republic. So I asked the leader for the Dole QA in Europe, can I join your group? And he said, oh, we'll think about it. We might have a position in Dole, Sweden or whatever. And it didn't materialize. So I started applying for my own job, which is what I do when I don't get what I want. I just go after it.
Well, isn't that kind of the classic kind of entrepreneur thing, right? It's kind of like, you don't really hear no, you just hear, I haven't quite figured out how to get there yet, right? Which I'm sure serves you well in your art world as well, right? Because
I try that. I do that throughout life. I've done it throughout life.
Yeah.
So I applied for jobs in the UK, and an Irish company that had an office in London, UK, they spotted my resume, and they were based in Dublin, and they said they had a position now for a technical manager. Do I want to interview for it? And I said, sure. So they flew me to Dublin. The interview went really, really well, and I got a job. I was offered a job on the spot.
Wow.
And so I was in California. I had bought a house. I had great job, car, and all that. And they said, well, we need you to come in 2 months' time. Can you do it? And I said, yeah, sure. I didn't know how I was going to do it, but it worked out.
You figure it out on the way, right?
Yeah. And so I worked for them for a while, and wasn't quite what I expected. And I went off on a tangent. I started my own food company of a small food processing business, and doing import and export too, which was a brand new, I would say in Ireland, it was life-changing because I learned that I didn't have to work for a company and I could run my own business. And I was there during the time of the Celtic Tiger from 2004 to when the economy crashed in, let's say, 2009. But when I moved to Ireland, it was quite an entrepreneurial atmosphere, and I learned the courage to start my own business and all that. Just being in Ireland and being pushed by Irish people, yeah, you could do it. I felt like I could do anything and just attack the world because of the environment in Ireland at the time. So life-changing experiences there, and it was where I started my art career, because I didn't train as an artist, but I tell people when the Irish boyfriend broke up with me, and I was devastated. And a friend said, go do an art class, you'll feel better. And it's like, art? I don't know anything about art.
But don't you find, sorry, I'm just going to interrupt for a quick second, because there's so much you've sort of talked about already. I just want to sort of talk through some of it. Like, I think, first of all, I think that if you're from a creative family, like I am as well, I think that it's all forms of creativity are kind of encouraged in a really consistent underlying way that you're not always really conscious of, I don't think, until you become an adult. And so, like with my family, obviously my grandmother was an artist and my sister is an artist. But my mother also did batik and silk scarves, and my brother is a musician. And I think that what ends up happening is that even if you're gravitated towards one skill, like obviously yours was music growing up.
Yes.
You kind of, I think, absorb that whole creativity in terms of that confidence of being able to be creative in a whole other realm of things. And, I think that's, for me, I think that's kind of how, I don't know, how it manifests itself. And I think that's why it's easier to be a professional artist, be that a musician, a theater, or fine arts, if you come from a creative family.
Right. That's true. I guess.
So, but I think the other thing too, which I think is kind of really interesting, and this is where I just feel like our paths are so similar, which is really interesting. Because actually I used to sing as well. I used to sing on the radio and do musical theater like a million years ago. And it's actually very interesting because with this pneumonia, one of the things I really missed is I've lost my voice. Like I can't hit those notes anymore. So I'm thinking, I think I need to go to voice lessons again. But not that it'll do anything for me, except my singing in the shower would be better.
It'll come back.
Yeah. But I think the other part too is that, I think when you're a creative and then you're in a work environment, I don't know about you, but I worked in financial services and technology. So there was always a little bit of you were always in an environment you never felt totally comfortable in. So you were always pushing and you're always learning, and you start to learn from those experiences that it's like, yeah, I can do that. I didn't think I could learn about mutual funds and investments, but I can. And I didn't think I could understand, the technology at a level, and of course I will never be a technology expert, but I think that you start to kind of build on those experiences that keep reinforcing, yeah, you can take risks because you're strong enough and you're smart enough to figure out how to do it.
Yes.
So I think that's good.
I would say I'm a perpetual student. I don't mind starting from scratch and learning anything.
Yeah, it's fun, right? Like who wants to do the same thing all the time, right? That's so boring.
Yes, yes. And that's why I don't particularly like a 9 to 5 environment, because I feel like I'm boxed in. So
Yeah,
I would
yeah.
rather freelance and try different things, learning from scratch and just building and, feeling a great sense of accomplishment, having
Hmm.
mastered a new a new craft, a new skill. And that's how
Yeah.
I feel with the art, because I wasn't trained as an artist, but I continue to learn and grow. And recently I learned so much from the Artist Network, on the business of art, because I have been trying this and trying that, but not in a structured way. And
Yeah.
so I'm very grateful to the Artist Network for having those courses last month. Talking about the business of art and the Instagram and the Facebook and paid advertisement and all that, because I've been trying all these things, but when
Yeah.
just learning from scratch and just trying this and that, it takes a lot longer than if you have learned the
Oh
structure.
yeah, well, and I think just as for the audience, Jennylynd's talking about the recent series of digital marketing education sessions that Marjolaine Vanderhart
Yes.
delivered. So she was on my Instagram talking to artists a few weeks ago, and I think that her education sessions are now available for sale with support, which I think is amazing because there's
Yes.
so much information. And I agree with you. Like every time I listen to her sessions, you just sort of tweak, you just keep adding and you keep making it a bit more sophisticated, and eventually it starts to become something, which is pretty cool.
Yes, yes. So I learned a great deal, and I learned what I was doing wrong.
Hmm.
Um, so now I have some more tools to use to promote my work, because it's easy as an artist, I think, to just churn out work. The creative part is nice, but the business end, you have to learn from others, really
Yeah.
and truly. Yeah.
Well, and I think it's one of the reasons, I've been one of the reasons I started this podcast, if you
Yes.
call it, I don't know what you call it, if it's an online Instagram thing. Anyway,
Yes.
is because I was listening to a bunch of podcasts, which I found were either a lot of kind of chatter about what they were doing with their art, but not anything that was tangible that I could kind of use and learn from. And
Okay.
I wasn't hearing a lot of stuff that was actually out there that was talking about kind of the business of art. And I think that in order to be successful in any business and any job you have, because this is a job, right? Great job, but it's a great job. There's parts of it that you have to just have the discipline to do that you don't necessarily love. And some of that, especially for artists, is going online and putting yourself in front of the camera and learning the digital piece of it, even though it's scary, right?
Yes. Well, from stage performance all my life, I don't mind being in front of camera. I tell people, like, when I lived in Ireland and I was there 7 years, I was always on TV or radio.
Oh,
Always,
cool.
because I was unique in many respects. I was promoting Caribbean food, selling to Irish people. And so every
Yeah, that's cool.
wanted me in their program. So,
Yeah.
like the morning show, they'd say, can you be a chef for a morning show and show us some Caribbean breakfast dish? And I just say, yeah, sure. And I'll be there, whipping up whatever. So, but all jokes aside,
Wow.
I still perform now because I'm a member of the Toronto Mendelssohn Choir. So I've kept up with
Oh,
the music.
wow.
I'm a soprano. And during the year, we have at least 10 shows. It's more than that, but we perform with the Toronto Symphony Orchestra and also always on stage. And I love stage performance. And I love
So
being.
can you sing us something? Something little? Oh, that's so cool.
That's it. Yes. So
I love that. Yeah.
I tell people, now in terms of being an artist, when I started in Ireland, I was painting Caribbean people. So even though I lived in Ireland, I had the Caribbean in my head, and I would paint images of Caribbean people. And so I moved to Toronto in 2011, and I love to show my work. I'm not one who hides in a corner. So whatever it looks like, if it's not, let's see, artistically correct. I don't know what the right word is. But in
I don't know.
my
I think
mind,
we're always working through that, though, right? I don't.
yeah,
I think that even artists that you look at and you think, oh yeah, they've got their thing down and they're refined. I think there's always that feeling of like I don't know if it's ready, I don't know if it's finished, but for me it's done, and that's what I'm doing, and I'm putting it
That's
out there in
right.
the world. Let it live its
Yes,
life.
yes. So I
Yeah.
experimented with different subject matters since I came here because I had joined a few artist groups, like there was the Artist Initiative, a bunch of Polish artists. I used to show my work with that group. In fact, I met Paul Brandehas when they had shows down at the Sunnyside Beach Pavilions. So that's
Oh
when I
yeah. Oh, I
first
did the
moved to
Sunnyside
Toronto.
Beach one as well. Was that years ago, like in
Yes.
2010, 2011?
2011,
Yeah.
2012, 2013. So I did 3 shows with them. That's when I first moved to Toronto. And many artists told me, don't paint people, nobody will buy a portrait. I said, but that's what I like to do. So then I said, okay, I'd experiment with landscapes. So I experimented with Canadian landscapes and I sold a few, but it's not something that I like to do. So even though,
So
you know,
it doesn't have that energy, right? Like I think one of the things I love about your work is that it's got that, and I don't know how to actually word it properly, but it's a little bit kind of primitive in the sense that it's very clean lines. There's no faces, so you can kind of visualize yourself there. But it seems to be such a beautiful marriage of your kind of the art that you're doing and the energy that you as a person, as an artist, have, and then the musical piece of it. And I think that all those things together create a really compelling, authentic piece of work.
thank you. Yes, I used to paint faces, and I still do like to paint faces. So I've done family portraits and all that. But recently, I've decided to leave out the eyes and face. Even though I love to paint eyes, I found that the Toronto audience doesn't like it. And I have shown my work in Trinidad,
Hmm.
where people like portraits and they like eyes. But in Toronto, here, I don't know what it is when people see a portrait, especially the eyes that follow, they kind of shy away from it. It's a very different
So
culture.
is that true for all of the portraits? Like, did you do portraits of, like black people, white people, Asian people? So it wasn't a cultural thing where people are feeling they're
Well, I
connected to
don't know.
their own culture.
But when I moved here from Ireland, right away, it was a culture shock
I
because the
bet.
Irish culture is very similar to Trinidadian culture or Caribbean culture. People stare at
Really?
you in the eye, they tell you exactly what they think of you, and they look at you up and down and they stare at you in the eye. In Toronto, nobody makes eye contact. And so
Hmm.
it took a long time to get used to this. And I think that transfers into watching a painting. I don't know. I'm just kind of working on my own theory here. Why
Yeah.
people don't seem to like faces. So I started these paintings without faces, and people appreciate them because I would never do that in the past. But the last 2 years I've been doing it, and people would say, "Oh wow, it's amazing!" So I've
Isn't that
decided that
interesting?
I will continue to paint without faces because, and then I tell people, like last year when I was at the Riverdale art walk showing my work, many people commented, they have no faces. And I said, well, you see yourself in it. You see
I,
yourself
I
enjoying
think I think that's really true. Like I think there's well, BC artist Marianne Einhorning, and she does these long dancers. She does these beautiful panels that are like, I don't know, 18 by 80, something like that. And
Oh,
I know that when she started, she also does landscapes and kayaks, and I mean, she's a very versatile artist, and she does a lot of super cool stuff. But I know when she started, people were like, "Well, nobody wants dancers, nobody wants people, nobody wants portraits, right?" And she's like, "But she's a dancer, and that's something that she's very passionate about, and it's about for her, it's her identity as being a girl and growing up as a girl, and so she has a whole bunch of stuff that's connected to that, and so she's basically, you know what, screw it, I'm going to try it and see what happens." And they're hugely successful. Like she's shown certainly at the Artist Project in San Diego and New York, and she does really, really well.
yeah.
But for her as well, I think one of the keys was she doesn't really put the features in. She puts the sense of the face and the sense of the
Yes, the
nose,
movement.
because I think, and she has people all the time that see themselves in her work. Like, oh,
Right.
that's me, and I used to dance like that, and I
Yes,
had a dress like that, or whatever. So I think that's really cool.
yes, yes. So, well, the first time I'd experimented with painting musicians was 2015, and I sold a few of those pieces. Then I was putting just minimal facial features. And then last year I decided to put no face at all. And I would paint classical musicians and jazz musicians. Classical musicians because I was trained in classical music, but I do like to listen to jazz. So even though I don't know a great deal about jazz, I just love to listen to the jazz while I paint. And so the images I put, you know, in the paintings would be, you know, listening to John Coltrane or you know, Jazz FM in Toronto is very good. So I paint while listening to Jazz FM. And so just last year, I was in Harlem for a book fair, promoting some of my books, and discovered a jazz club in the basement of Red Rooster Restaurant. So we went down there, and there was Delfeo Marsalis and members of the New Orleans Jazz Orchestra performing.
Holy cow, that must have been amazing. What a find.
I videotaped a lot of it and came back to Toronto and immediately painted Guinea's Supper Club. You know, just immediately. And I like to paint from life experiences too. And I use videos and photographs and just do composite work from the videos and photographs, you know. But even I find even though you don't paint the faces on it, like, you know, for example, there's one where I think it's a saxophone player and he's like leaning right back, and you can tell by the body language and the lines of it that you can just totally visualize that intense concentration and that total kind of absorption in the music, right? So it's kind of the faces are almost redundant. Like you don't really need them, it seems like, to add anything. Oh, someone's just written a really long note here. I used to listen to Jazz FM in high school when it was only on air after 9 p.m. I used to have to sneak my Walkman into bed and stay up and listen to the program. That's from Jennifer. Oh, that's great. I used to do that with reading with a flashlight under the bed. Yes, I love Jazz FM. They're very good. And so good as a background for painting.
Yeah. And so how is, on your website, you talk about your, obviously your cultural heritage, you've talked about the music and the language, but you also specifically talk about the kind of the colors of your heritage and how you kind of integrate those into your work. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yes. So I like to use bright colors. One thing though I noticed, and I don't know if it's changing, but when I first came to Toronto, I found artists here didn't use a lot of bright colors in their work, just muted colors. So the first few years here, I had like really bright, crazy colors, what would be considered crazy colors in my work. And then recently I've been experimenting with just a beige background and the musicians in very few colors, you know, like blues, browns, very few colors, like this one behind me. Yeah. I've done a lot of paintings with the beige background and then the musicians. Can I show you another one? I'll show you an orchestra. 2 seconds.
Yeah. I love this part. I love the peeking into the studio and seeing what you're doing.
So this one is one of my favorites. And it's a section of the Toronto Symphony Orchestra. But just the cellos and basses. So I call it the unfinished symphony because we're not seeing the violins and the other instruments. But you see the background, because the stage is beige. Yeah. And then you have navy blue, black, some rust color. Some minimal colors. I've experimented a whole series like this. I really like that series.
It's
so I've been straying away from the bright colors and just experimenting.
Yeah. Well, I know how you feel because I often, you know, obviously I work in a lot of really strong color as well. I love I like the jewel tones. I don't even like the pastel or the muted versions of those colors. And yeah, it's funny because I love, one of the reasons I love doing outdoor fairs is you get to hear what people say about your art, and I think it's kind of hilarious. The people are like, whoa, it's too much, too much. I could never have that in my house. I'm like, yeah, that's totally fine, right? It's like, but there's other people, and I'm finding with this trend in decor right now of everything being really, really neutral and very beautiful and very calming, people are kind of like, but where's my personality? Where's my pop of color? And so I'm kind of seeing this more where people are looking for a fairly large pop of color. Now, often I would say it's still in kind of the blues and I would say those nature comfort colors versus
Right.
oranges and reds, although I do sell some of those too. But yeah, it's kind of, it's an interesting
So
way that
it's
works.
changing. You find it's changing the acceptance of color.
I think it's a matter of finding your market. Like I think that
Right.
I have a really hard time. I buy the raw umbers and the browns and the beiges because I know I should use them, and I never pick them up. And when I do, I end up having a piece for me that it feels very forced. You know, like it doesn't
Right.
feel like it's something that I'm really connected to. And so I've sort of just come to the conclusion and the realization there are some people that are going to love the colors and love the work and love the energy from it, and there are other people that aren't. And I can't change their
Right.
minds on that, you know. You just have to find your market.
That's the thing. I have to find my markets. I think I'm still in the infancy stage of finding the ideal market for my musical work.
Mm-hmm.
I still have to look for the market because many people say they like it, but you know, the next step of buying, I still have to find the right market.
Well, and I think that's also, I think, where I see this in my sister's work. I mean, being an abstract artist, I don't have any of the representational pieces to either bind you or bond you, or also to get in the way of making that connection, you know. And with Helen's work, when she did a show in San Diego, and her work is these West Coast trees, and they're beautiful, and they're mossy, and the colors are so great, and so many people loved them,
Yes.
but they didn't have a personal connection to that landscape, you know. So whereas, you know, when she's in BC, they have that connection to the landscape. And
Right.
when you have Julia Veenstra, who paints Northern Ontario landscape, well, I have a personal connection to that because that's my childhood. And so I think that that's where, when you're painting something that's representational, people can
Yes.
really appreciate the work. But yeah, you need to find those people who were musicians, or, you
Yes.
know, something where they're kind of going, oh, it reminds me of my childhood. Or I think that's kind of the important part.
Yes, yes. Because the sales that I've made, like for example, last year at Riverdale Art Walk, um, a little Chinese girl and her mom came by and they looked at a string quartet that I had drawn. And these are the leads from the Toronto Symphony Orchestra. So the lead violinist, lead cellist, lead bass, etc. And they said, "Oh, we want this." I said, "Oh, really? Why?" And
That's a good question.
apparently the child was learning to play the violin, and so it touched them. They felt a
Yeah.
connection with the image, and so they bought it. So that was brilliant. You know?
That's super cool. And don't you love that too? And especially when a
Yeah,
child, like when someone young has this really deep feeling with your piece, and you kind of go, that is a memory that is going to be with them forever, and that piece of art's going to be with them forever. I just think that's
yeah,
just
yeah.
such an incredible experience.
Yes, yes. So that was fun. I'll tell you a joke of the first painting that I sold to a complete stranger, because one or two friends have bought my paintings, which is really nice. But I
It's really nice, but it kind of doesn't count. I don't know, I always feel. Yeah.
I was at the Rosedale Art Fair. It was the first time I had done it, and I had never sold anything to anybody. And so this man came up. It was a landscape. I call it Misty Mountain. So there was the mist on the mountain and, you know, a lake scene.
Mm.
Came and he stared at it. And then he went to my neighbor and bought some abstract floral work. And I was thinking, he looked at my painting so long, he didn't buy it. And then he said, "Do you take cash?"
I would love to take your cash.
I said, "Yes, I do."
Yeah.
He paid cash for this painting. And it was the first time I'd sold a big painting to a total stranger. So when he left, I did a song and a dance in that tent. I don't know if you know, in
I
Rose
bet.
Art Fair, it was a big tent. And the other artists were looking at me. What is wrong with this woman? I said, "You don't know, it's cute. It's the first
But it's so hard in that situation. Like I remember my first couple of sales too, and you're like, yeah, no, it's cool. Like I do this all the time. I sell all the time. Meanwhile, you're like, oh my god, I'm so excited.
Oh yes, I did a dance for them that day. They'll never forget.
Well, that's great. Well, hopefully we'll have many more of those dancing days.
Oh my gosh, yes, yes.
So I did want to touch on, because one of the other things I think is really great is that you've been doing quite a few book launches and book readings too. So obviously you're an author too.
Yes, yes.
Do you want to talk a little bit about that and how important that is to your psyche?
Yes, I'll tell you, because I have some samples here to show you. Now, as a scientist, we have to publish, especially if you do a PhD, you have to publish your research. So during my time at McGill, I had published my research throughout the years. And then after leaving university and working, in the real working world, I told you I worked in the fresh fruit and vegetable industry at Dole. And during that time, I published this book. I have some samples to show you. So it's a textbook, and it talks about the microbial hazards in the fresh fruits and vegetable industry. You've heard about foodborne outbreaks related to salads and that sort of thing, right? So I helped Boscovich Farms in California. They're the 7th largest grower in the United States. I helped them with their food safety programs for farms, pack houses, their salad plants, that sort of thing. And I had a great deal of experience in that aspect of the fresh fruit and vegetable industry. So I started writing and getting contributing authors for this textbook, and it was used in universities in the United States for many years. Finally, it was published in 2006. So this was my first textbook, and I've done chapters for other science authors. But when I moved to Toronto from Ireland, I couldn't get Ireland out of my head. I just couldn't, because I had so many profound experiences there. So I had to write about them. So the first memoir I've written was called Escape from Éire, which is Gaelic for Ireland. And I later republished and put Escape from Ireland, because everybody in Toronto was saying, what does Éire mean? So, an Irish friend told me, just put Ireland. I was like, so yes, I did that. So this was the first publication. And I also wrote about what it was like coming to Toronto. Goodbye, frying pan, hello, fire. So goodbye, frying pan, hello, fire. I left Ireland during recession. I had lost my business. I lost my house. I lost my car. I lost everything. And I moved here to start from scratch. And if you've ever moved to a new city without knowing anybody, because I didn't know anybody here. When I say didn't know anybody, I did not know anyone.
Yeah,
so
I can imagine.
Life by Google. It was very tough. And so this book talks about the first 2 years in Toronto and all the hurdles to try and settle in a new city. And I also wrote about my life in California, red car, long legs. I had a red sports car, and I do have long legs. It talks about all the adventures, misadventures in Southern California, and travel to Latin America. So this is a really fun read. And Derivé, this talks about going back to Trinidad, the country of my birth. I left in '92, which is a long time ago, and nothing stays the same. So every time I go back, I feel like a tourist, because the friends are gone. A lot of them live in US, Canada, or the UK. And so most people I grew up with in childhood, they're gone, or those who are there, they've moved on, so they have their family. And that. So I talk about taking foreign friends back to visit Trinidad, and it's a collection of stories. Most recent, this one, Where Are My Car Keys? So this is my mom from the 1950s.
That was about Alzheimer's, right?
Yes. So it talks about her journey with Alzheimer's disease and how my family coped. It was more than 10 years seeing her slow demise. So
horrible disease.
Horrible.
Yeah.
So the book has sad passages, but also some funny passages too, because of funny anecdotes, because she would do some crazy things, like really, really crazy. So we used to say, okay, are we going to laugh or will we cry? I chose to laugh.
My grandmother, the artist as well, she had Alzheimer's, and she had this real thing for silver. Like she would buy like silver platters and silver plated things. And so when we went through her apartment, it was just like she had like 25 unwrapped silver cake servers and stuff, like just really strange things. It's a strange disease.
Yes, they would turn to hoarding everything. And my mom used to stick money in different corners, like all over. And she was driving. She loved her car. That's why the title, Where My Car Keys. When she forgot our names, she knew her car. She loved
it's crazy.
Yes, she didn't even know who we were. But
we've had a number of people that have asked, where are your books available? Where do you get them?
Okay, so they're online. If you go to JennylyndJames.com/books, I have lots of inventory, hint, hint, so you can buy a nice signed copy from me and I'll mail it out to you.
Send them to all your friends.
Yeah, JennylyndJames.com/books. If you want the ebook, it's available on Kindle, Amazon Kindle. And this Sunday, I'm doing readings from this book at 5 o'clock, Facebook Live. So Jennylynd James, writer.
Oh, that's cool.
I'm doing lots of readings. So if you want to get a flavor for Where My Car Keys, and I have the illustrated kids book. This is my first experiment in illustrating a children's book. So it's that my granny. So it talks about Alzheimer's disease from the eyes of one of my because he saw his granny, you know, just go down slowly. Yeah. So I'll read from that book as well.
That sounds amazing. And I'm going to have to cut us off because we're actually almost at our 45-minute mark, which if I don't stop there, we can't save the video, which I think people want to. So I could talk to you for another like hour and a half. This has been so great, and we've packed so much information into this one session. And I really, really appreciate you coming on board. So thank you so much, and I look forward to working with you at the Artist Network and all the cool stuff we can do.
Thank you for having me. Enjoyed it.
And I will, so I'll post this so people can see. I'll tag you so people can find Jennylynd's website and her books and stuff like that. Hopefully check out her book reading. And next week, I'm hoping we have Sage Zabernicki Stewart, who just won the photography award at the Toronto Outdoor. And she was my booth partner, booth neighbor at the Toronto Outdoor, or at One of a Kind last year, and so hopefully she will be on board. And then we've got Lane Verbeek. And so thank you so much, everyone, for joining me. Hopefully we'll see you next Thursday. Thank you so much, Jennylynd, and have a fabulous week. Okay,
Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you.